Welcome to another session in this series. In this session, we will have a look at the Fiori authorization flow, how a user gets access to Fiori, and what is the sequence in which SAP system checks the access for the user. The diagram on the screen shows the complete authorization flow. If you notice at the top we have user, and if you follow along, the user needs access to launchpad, Fiori launchpad, a basic access. This is typically provided by the Fiori end user role. Once the user have a basic access to launchpad, then in order to use any other tile or any other app, the user needs further access, which is for catalog as well as pages and spaces. If you are using the older version, you may need older version of Fiori, you may need access to groups instead of pages or spaces. Now once the user have access to both catalog and pages and spaces, this is when the user gets access to tile and target mapping. We'll discuss these things in detail, but think of them as a link to launch the app. Once you have access to the tile and target mapping, the user can actually launch the app, the Fiori app, and once the app has been launched, the authorization check further follows another check at the OData service level. The system checks if you have access to the services which are used in the app. Now depending on the configuration, if you are using the embedded system, both your front end and the back end, they are in the same system, so there is no trusted RFC connection in that case. But if you are using a gateway deployment, the system then triggers a call via trusted RFC, and it goes in the backend system and it checks for the required authorizations, the PFCG authorizations for the app to load data. If both your front end and back end are in the same system, that is, you are on an embedded deployment, then all this check is completed within the same system, and this completes the user's authorization flow. Now this may seem complex when you look at it, and it is actually, Fiori is very complex. If you remove even one piece out of this whole flow, the app stops working. So if you notice, we actually have the 3 layers in it. If you see, we have UI layer, a OData layer, and an authorization layer. These are denoted with these 3 different colors. I will give you a minute to have a look at this again. Let's simplify this a bit. So if I were to simplify this, this is what it will look like. You will have a UI. The UI will include Fiori launchpad access, app, tile, target mapping, catalog, spaces and pages, or groups. We will have a OData API layer. This layer will basically deal with IWSG and IWSP services. This is typically, we maintain this by using the authorization object s_service. This is where the values are maintained. The third layer is authorization, which uses the classic SAP authorization framework, where data comes from SU24 transaction and you maintain it in the PFCG transactions via going into the authorization tabs. So this is the simplified version of the chart, of the authorization flow chart that was represented earlier. We'll try to go through each of this layer, and I will explain all of these concepts